All right, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Hey Mark, the podcast where I, Mark, get to have open and authentic conversations about things like mental health and self-development. And the reason I started this podcast is to try and alleviate some of the suffering that's happening out there in silence. For those of you that kind of feel like maybe no one really understands what you're going through or really feels the way you feel or has the perspectives that you have or thinks the way that you do, whatever it is, I just want to let you know that no matter what you are going through, life can and will get better for you. You might just have to keep pushing through whatever it is that you're going through. And that's kind of what I wanted to chat about today. Recently I started a group like I've, mentioned before, but for those of you that are brand new to this podcast and just kind of listening for the first time, recently I started this group on WhatsApp and we have daily conversations about, self-development, mental health. And, we kind of, one of the other things that we do is we also have weekly Zoom calls. And one of the things that we were talking about recently on the Zoom call was, anxiety. And, the different types of anxieties that we have, whether it's like kind of like short bursts, kind of like a shotgun shell to the chest, or if it's kind of like a looming kind of anxiety that kind of feels like a weight that you have to bear always. And, I've kind of had my experience with both. I've had those like panic attack or anxiety attacks where it's just quick and heavy and it kind of knocks you off your feet. And then I've also had those experiences where more frequently I have that experience where it's just kind of like an overwhelming, like kind of just a feeling of anxiety, like kind of all the time. Like I kind of call it like a 10% anxiety. And I was thinking a lot about anxiety, and I've kind of been listening to a lot of different podcasts recently around this topic. And, between listening to podcasts and doing any reading that I do around like Stoic philosophy and, Dr. Jordan Peterson, for example, I guess not really an example of Stoic philosophy, but of the types of topics that I listen to or read. And I came across this video recently of Jordan Peterson, and he's talking about kind of, the fear around losing friends when you kind of start to, better yourself or start on your own path or start on your own journey, and kind of the anxiety around kind of losing your social group that you have already, like your existing social group. And the first thing that he talks about, especially around anxiety or any fear that you have around acting or doing something, he talks about the consequences of not doing the thing that you want to do, right? Because we kind of have this fear of wanting to keep our lives the same way that they are right now, because familiarity is comfortable and we want to live in our comfort zones. And so he talks about kind of like, well, what's your fear when you're like kind of going through this? It's obviously that you're going to lose your friends. And he talks about, well, the only friends you're going to lose are the ones that don't want you to better yourself, the ones that you don't really, essentially need around you in the first place. And he says there's the opportunity to gain new friends. He basically says to just contemplate the price you pay for, not taking any action at all. And he talks about, looking into why you feel the anxiety that you feel. And that's something that has to do with reflection, right? Like that's something that you have to do. You have to do some self-reflection on. You have to maybe journal. You have to maybe speak into your phone like this, start a podcast. Maybe it's talking to friends. Maybe it's kind of, just looking at yourself in the mirror and thinking about these things like, why do you feel anxious about the things that you feel anxious about? Is it something that's like a rational thing to be anxious about? Or is it something, and that's so, it sounds stupid when you say it, because now that I say it out loud, it kind of sounds dumb to say rational, but is it something that has a precedence in your life? Like, has it happened before? Is there an actual good chance that it's going to happen? Why are you feeling anxious in the first place? maybe you have to journal about that, because that's something that, I really only ever understand when I write things down. Thinking about like why do I feel this kind of anxiety all the time? Like what's in my life that I need to tend to that I'm not tending to, that I'm ignoring maybe. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a part of my life, maybe it's just an aspect of my health, maybe it's a conversation I need to have that I'm bitching out of. Why do I feel this fucking anxiety? I have to think about that. I have to reflect. For me, I have to write that down. And a lot of the times it comes through conversation as well, like just speaking like this. And it won't go away if you don't tend to it. Jordan Peterson, he says even like if you ignore it, then the meaning of your life goes away. And he talks about, I'm going to link the video as well in the description of this. I'll link the YouTube video as well so you guys can check it out. But he just kind of talks so well about, he says that there's a reason you're feeling that anxiety, that itch that can't be scratched. I've heard it even referred to, or, there's a reason you feel that. And at the end of the day, none of us really know why. And I can tell you to reflect on the answer or the reason why or whatever it could be, but nobody really knows. And the point isn't to know why. It's to scratch the itch and understand that the things that make you anxious in society, you're supposed to try and correct. The things that make you anxious about yourself, you're supposed to try and correct, right? And we're never going to be perfect. But the idea is to strive to scratch that itch. If I feel, bad about how much money I make or how much money I save or how much money I have, the idea isn't to ignore that. It's to address it and say, well, why does this make me anxious? Am I in a position where I should be nervous about my finances? If so, I should deal with it. If not, I should try and focus my anxieties or my worries around things that are more urgent, right? That's just one example. I'm just saying that it's just a way to reflect. And my favorite part about this Jordan Peterson thing is he says that it's like your better self trying to manifest itself by torturing you with the pain that you need to go through, or like a problem you have to address, I think is the way he words it. And it reminds me a lot of actually and this is something I go back to all the time because it's a principle that helped me out so much in terms of my perspective around these things. Like The Obstacle is the Way, like the book that Ryan Holiday has. And reading that book really helped me understand that the things that we go through that scare us, or the things that we go through that are uncomfortable, the things that we go through that fucking hurt or that suck or seem detrimental to our lives, the things that we go through are what we need to go through to get out of the position that we're in right now. And so that's kind of exactly like what Jordan Peterson's referencing when he says the price of not acting, right? The price of inaction. The price of inaction is continuing to live in the state of anxiety that you're in right now. The price of inaction is really just keeping things the same. However they are right now, however you feel is how you will continue to feel. And it won't get easier, it won't get, for a change to happen, you have to take action. And that's the toughest part sometimes, is we are waiting for someone else to save us or to help us, to carry us through a tough time, to tell us it's going to be okay. But at the end of the day, words of encouragement are great, and it's great to know that you're not alone. That's why I started this podcast. That's why I have these conversations. But at the end of the day, there's nothing I can say that's going to, magically make your life better. For you to see change in your life, you need to take action. And so when he's talking about, the price of inaction. That's exactly what he's saying, is to stay where you are right now. So a lot of the time we think, or at least I shouldn't project this. A lot of the time I thought about, will my anxiety go away? Will my depression go away? Is this something that I'm going to feel like forever? Or am I ever going to feel normal? Until I understood this principle, and I understand that, everyone kind of has that feeling sometimes where, and it doesn't happen all the time. I'm not saying that it's going to feel like that all the time. I'm just saying you're going to come across these times in life. And if you don't learn to address the things that make you uncomfortable, the things that make you anxious, and you sweep them under the rug and you don't look at them, they will be debilitating. And so it's necessary for us to face that. We always hear like face your fears, but it's necessary for us to go through that uncomfortable It's necessary for us to go through that uncomfortable state so that we can grow into the person that we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to just, obviously some anxieties are like survival instincts, right? Like you should be afraid of a bear. Unless you have a gun and you're really well trained. But like most people should be afraid of a bear. That's a rational anxiety. But that's not we're not in, immediate physical danger like that all the time. And a lot of the things that we feel anxiety about, realistically, they're not life-threatening. If you're in a job you hate or in a relationship that's fucking toxic, you fear changing things, right? Like you fear, maybe, or maybe you don't, but maybe you fear, getting a new job. Maybe you fear getting into a new relationship because we're so attached to the familiarity. And like I said before, if you don't take any action whatsoever, you can expect nothing to change. So that's all I got. It's a little bit of a downer of an episode. Wasn't coming out to entertain you guys today, just trying to give you a new perspective. That really helped me out. If you found this entertaining at all, then I guess share the show. But if it gave you a new perspective, it gave you a new outlook, please share the show. Help me grow. And if you have a different outlook on this, then message me. Shoot me a message. Shoot me, you can shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'll throw my Instagram at the bottom of the screen here for those watching. And for those listening, it'll be in the description of the podcast. But yeah, if you don't agree with me, then let me know. Reach out to me. I appreciate having these conversations with people that don't agree with me. Because if I'm wrong, please correct me. Like, I want an easier life. So if you have better life advice, send it my way. But that's all I got for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for the continued support. If you listen to this show and you connect with anything that I talked about, like maybe you felt like that before, then you are the reason that I do what I do. So thank you guys so much for connecting with the things that I speak about and the things that I think about, because it helps me even knowing that other people think the way that I think. So that's all I got. Thank you guys so much. I'm jumping off here. Much love and peace out.